Let's talk about how to draw from your holster. A lot of people say, hey, I can draw from my holster. I got to figure it out. Been doing this for a while. But did you know there's a technique? There is an actual technique to drawing from the holster. And what this technique is designed for is to, first of all, be safe, safely getting the firearm out of the holster. Number two, quickly getting your firearm into the fight or onto the target, whatever the case may be. So, to figure out how to safely draw, we're going to use the acronym GUARD. GUARD is going to be the acronym we're going to use for getting a safe and effective draw onto our target. So let's talk about the steps to the draw. So if I'm facing down at my target and I'm ready to go ahead and draw out, I'm going to use the G in GUARD. I'm going to grip my firearm. Remember that grip always starts in the holster. So when I grip my firearm, I'm going to get nice and high in that back strap, just like we talked about with the fundamentals of grip. I'm going to have my fingers already wrapped around the grip of the firearm, and I'm going to have everything ready in position so that as I do any unholstering that I need to do, you notice my firearm comes out in a good grip with my strong hand. So it's nice and ready for my other hand just to attach right where I expect it to be. So again, our grip is going to start in the holster. We don't want to take it out and do this. That's not appropriate. We want our grip to start in our holster. So when we grip, we're going to get that nice grip with our strong hand. Our support hand should come onto our chest or our stomach, one or the other. Ideally somewhere kind of in between here, but we want it to touch. Why? Because otherwise people have a tendency to kind of do this as they maybe hold their belt down and they come out like this. Well, is that kind of a bad idea? Oh yeah. See how I laser my hand there without even realizing it, trying to come out of my holster? What if I fired around doing that? So we want that hand on our stomach or our chest, somewhere in between there, as we grip. That is our grip. Next, we're going to unholster. Now to unholster, this is the next area people get themselves in trouble. A lot of people like to just do it in kind of whatever manner works for them. There is a technique. To unholster, you want to raise your shoulder and elbow kind of high. So it's a straight up movement. So you'll notice looking straight on to me, I'm up like so. It feels a little awkward the first few times you do it, but after you do it for a while, it'll start to feel like second nature. So again, hand on the stomach or chest, you're going to unholster straight up. Now why are we doing a straight up unholster? Because what happens is, if we don't do that, a lot of people tend to kind of do this and they bowl. We call this bowling on the way to their target. So they'll bowl out and they'll get it hung up on their holster, trying to get out, and they catch it on things and they're trying to get it out. By coming straight up, you accomplish two things. One, you've cleared all the area you need to clear on your belt. But number two, it gets you ready for the attach part of what we're about to do. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go to A, attach. So again, remember we've got our hand on our chest or our stomach. We've come straight up, right? Now what we're going to do is we're simply going to drop our elbow. So if you drop your elbow, you see what happens? It's like a pivot, and it just pivots your firearm where? Straight at your target, doesn't it? So you want to just drop the elbow. And as you drop that elbow, it pivots straight at your target, putting you in position to attach your support hand. Now you notice I'm getting my attach right here. So I've dropped my elbow, I've got my attach. I could fire right here if I needed to, right? So this is where I'm attached right in here. I want to ready by pointing out towards the target. And you notice when I ready, I'm coming straight at the target. I'm not coming up to the target. I'm coming straight out towards the target. This is how I ready. And finally, wherever I need to be, whether it's straight, fully extended, I can discharge out here, or I can discharge from here as I'm readying. Either one is a good place to discharge. So let's talk about the steps one more time. And let's do it from both a front and a side view. So to start, I'm going to grip, I'm going to unholster, I'm going to attach, I'm going to ready and discharge. So I'm going to grip, unholster, attach, ready, discharge. So those are the steps to getting your firearm out of your holster, drawing it and accurately getting it onto your target. But now, how do you get it back in your holster? Well, here is where people with holsters get themselves in a lot of trouble. So please, please, please pay attention closely to this next section. The first thing to remember is that once your firearm is out of the holster, there is never, never, never a rush to get it back into the holster. How can you say that? Well, let's think about it. If I draw my firearm out and I'm out doing whatever I've got to do, taking care of a threat coming around me, and I think the threat is down and I think there's no more issues coming, am I in a hurry now to get it in my holster and run up there? No, there's no rush at all, right? So I've taken my steps, got my threat down. Now I want to take a moment to breathe. Let's look around. Let's think about what's going on here. Is my threat dealt with? Yes. Does my threat have any friends? I don't know. I haven't looked around me. So, before you ever get it into the holster, take a moment and breathe and think, because there is no rush to get your firearm back into the holster once it's out. So, we've come out, we've done our shots, bang, bang, bang. We bring our finger off the trigger. We want to come to a low ready position. And by low ready, we mean we're not pointing at the target. We're pointing kind of towards the ground, but we're not pointing at our feet. We're pointing towards the ground in front of us. We're ready, if we need to be, to go ahead and respond again, right? In the meantime, we're going to go ahead and keep this at the low ready though. Everything looks fine ahead of us. Now we want to do a 360-degree scan around us. So you'll notice if I need to scan behind me, I can look like this over both shoulders. But I'm only sweeping about this far either way. I'm not really getting a full 360 view. I'm getting a little bit over here, a little bit over here. There's kind of an area back here that I didn't really scan very good. So the simple trick to that is to simply take a half a step back with your foot. And I know it's hard to see on there, but from that angle, I'm just going to lift my foot, take it just a half step back and behind me so that I've now opened up that area. Now I'm swooping all the way around, checking my back here. And then I'm going to bring that foot back. I'm going to do the same thing with the other foot. I'm going to lift it up and bring it just a little bit back. And now I've swooped and been able to see everything behind me there. So again, by taking my foot and just putting it a little bit behind me, I've opened up all that area. Now I see all of this. And then by bringing it back and bringing my other foot just a little bit behind, and I'm exaggerating a little bit here, I've now opened all of this that I can see. So I've made sure that I've covered all of my area around me. So I want to make sure that I get a good view all the way around. And notice my muzzle control, I'm keeping pointed pretty much straight in front of me as I do this. I'm not taking my whole body and swinging it. I'm keeping my arms steady. I'm just pivoting to look around. Okay, everything looks good. Think of it like the tank, the turret on it, right? The turret doesn't move. The tank's just going to move. I'm just going to keep the turret right in place, but check around. So now I've done my thing. Bang, bang, bang. Come in. I've done my scan, nobody behind me. What do I need to do to get this firearm back into the holster? Well, we're going to reverse our steps basically. So the first thing I want to do is get this hand back onto our stomach or chest, our support hand. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to bring that elbow up. Right? Remember we dropped it down to roll it out here? I'm going to bring it up. And now if I brought it up and my shoulder's straight up, I should be pretty close to where I need to be to get this into the holster without looking. And you notice I go in nice and slow and steady. Okay, nice and slow and steady. So again, from here, I'm out shooting. I've come in, I've done my scan. Nothing here. Hand on the chest. I keep my eyes down on my threat. Elbow up. And I'm going to slowly lower down into my holster. Now, if you don't quite know where it's at, you get it up there and you're kind of doing this, that's okay. Take your time with it. Don't get in a rush and try to force it in, because then you run the risk of bumping the trigger on something, having an accidental discharge. So make sure that you just bring it up straight and slowly find where it goes, get it into place, and attach it. So again, if we're going to reholster, what we're going to do, we're going to come out, we're doing our shooting, bang, bang, bang. We come back in, done our scan from the low ready, hand on the chest or the stomach, elbow straight up. We're now going to keep our eyes down range as we slowly lower it into the holster. Now, what about if you have a firearm that has a safety on it? Well, everything's going to work the same exact way, except for when we get ready to draw, we're going to use our guard. We're going to grip, hand on our stomach or chest. We're going to unholster, and we're going to attach. This is where we want to flip that safety to the off position so that it's ready to fire. That's part of our ready. We're going to ready it to discharge. Now, same thing coming back. If we're done shooting, we're bringing it to that low ready. This is the time to get that safety back on. Then we do our scan. Then we go ahead and raise that elbow up, support hand on the stomach or chest, and straight down into our holster. One thing we never, ever, ever want to do when we are drawing and holstering is use two hands. If you have a holster that requires you to use two hands, you've got the wrong holster. So don't use a holster that requires two hands, because what happens is, again, people get to doing this and then they come right over the top of themselves. And that's just not a place you want to be. And they do the same thing in reverse, trying to put it back into the holster. They'll open their holster up like this and they're pointing right at their hand part of the time. So you never, ever, ever want to use two hands to do that. Another thing to be aware of when you're holstering is that you make sure you do a sweep to make sure that your clothing didn't get caught inside of there, because sometimes the clothing wants to get caught in the holster when you're holstering it up. So do a quick sweep, make sure that everything's out of there and that you didn't get any clothing caught in your holster. When selecting a holster, you want to make sure, no matter what kind you get, you've got one that covers the trigger guard. You want your holster to cover the trigger guard no matter what kind you have, so that you can't accidentally bump it. This is important because covering that trigger guard with a holster can actually prevent accidental discharges. There's been more than one occasion where somebody had a holster that did not cover that trigger guard and has somehow gotten caught on their clothing or other object, and they've had an accidental discharge in the holster. So make sure that you have an appropriate holster that covers your trigger guard.